Good afternoon. We are joined as the Berlin Council on Aging. Tuesday, January 30th. It is 4:00 something p.m. And this is being held as a hybrid meeting. I will call the roll, see who's hanging with us. Karen Schultz.
Here.
Rachel Boyer. Lori Fairbay.
Here.
Linda Robinson.
Oh,
Are you
Linda, you're
muted?
muted.
You're muted.
Here.
Hello.
I'm muted.
We thought you were the strong silent type.
No, you'll find that's not me.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. Kate Bliss.
Here.
Pat Wheeler.
Here.
Bob Blair here. And we do not yet have Chris Keefe. We do have Victoria Flynn Sankaran.
Yep.
Marvelous. Let us commence the meeting. Would someone care to, has anyone reviewed and had any negative or positive comments about the minutes of the previous meeting?
No.
I have not seen them. Were they posted?
I sent them.
Yeah, they were.
Karen sent them out, like right after, like right around, like what, the beginning of the year?
Yes.
Oh,
Do you want me to forward that to you?
that's a broader band than my memory has
But
that long ago.
the exact day that I sent them. All right, actually the 14th.
14th.
I sent them
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
So anyone who has read it, do you have comments to make? Yay, nay, wonderful. Thank you very much for doing that, Karen.
Like I said, anytime you want to do it, Bob.
I do it already for a couple of other groups and yeah, there are more things to do. Okay, so we will consider those approved. Why don't we do it by vote? Karen Schultz,
Aye.
as though you were going to disapprove your own minutes. Lori Fairbay,
Aye.
Linda Robinson,
Aye.
Kate Bliss,
Aye.
Pat Wheeler,
Aye.
Bob Blair, aye. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Karen.
You are welcome.
Could we have updates about donations, expenses, part-time wages, director wages?
Yes. All right. This is including most of December and January. Okay. Part-time wages are $1,079.94. My wages are $5,290 even. I'm gonna give this to you.
Oh, perfect.
Donations are $99 even. And expenses are $1,990.93.
Actually, $99 is not an even amount, but anyway, you're saying there's no sense.
Correct.
So they're
Actually, there's kind of no sense to our donation thing anyway. It's just people voluntarily chuck money in the pot. Yeah.
Correct.
Do we need to know what the expenses are?
Would you like a breakdown?
Sure.
The main expense in the last month and a half was Powder House,
Uh-huh.
and that was almost 600. We had a couple of Simply Yoga bills that Sharon tends to do like batch billing.
Mhm.
So we had a few months of those expenses as well.
Okay.
We also had Tai Chi, and I'm just trying to think of offhand what else was going on. Those are the biggies. We also obviously had like gas,
Yep.
Meals on Wheels reimbursement for mileage. I had to pick up a couple of supplies for the Powder House. This is there. Those are the biggies. If you'd like a more detailed list, I can give.
I don't think we need a more detail, do we? Anyone? No. Okay.
All right.
Sometimes.
Anyone else?
Down stuff.
Yeah.
What's that, Bob?
I say anyone else. I said,
Oh.
I'm good with that. Anybody else want more detail?
Nope. I think that's good.
And how are things going with Tai Chi and yoga?
So yoga has been going okay. The last two Saturdays we canceled, one was because Sharon was sick and one because the temperatures were below zero. And when the temperatures get too cold, I'm very leery about seniors coming out first thing in the morning to come to yoga. And the fact too that, you know, with the building, making sure it was properly heated. So we just decided to hold off. Yoga should be commencing again on Saturday. That is the plan. In terms of Tai Chi, Jeff has had a personal issue. He's our Tai Chi instructor. He's had a personal issue going on. He has asked for sessions to be paused as of right now. This has been going on throughout the month of January. I reached out to him to get an update to see when he will be able to return back. I am pending an update from him. I have reached out to the ladies and gentlemen who attend Tai Chi on a weekly basis, and I have asked them if they would prefer to wait until Jeff can return, or if I can try to find a fill-in instructor, would they want to continue classes? Right now, the sentiment is that they'd rather wait until Jeff can come back. But I haven't heard back from anybody yet, and I'm going to reach out to other COA directors just to get a fill-in name, just so I can have one. But I don't want to get a fill-in if my Tai Chiers are telling me I'm not coming, because then it's why.
Why, exactly.
So that's why I wanted to ask sentiment between that. I don't know how long Jeff is going to be having his personal issue ongoing. So that is the latest development with that.
People who have subscribed to Tai Chi, they pay a fee or don't pay a fee?
They pay donations.
Donations, okay. So his not being available doesn't in any way cut back on the number of classes that they're guaranteed to have, so they're not actually losing any money.
And we're not paying anything because he would only be paid for the classes he does.
Right.
So as of right now, it's not hurting our budget. I mean, I would prefer to have classes, but I also respect the people who come on a weekly basis, you know, and some people are saying if you can get a fill-in, you know, we'll try to keep an open mind, but I want to also see too, we pay Jeff about $50 a session, and it's kind of low actually. So I'm also afraid too, if we reach out for the Tai Chi instructors and then their prices are much higher, we're not budgeted for that.
Okay.
So that would be the thing too.
How much, what kind of funds do we have in discretionary funds that can be used to, if we got in a situation like this, we needed to fill in and it was a few bucks more per session for an instructor?
As of right now, we still have our expense budget. We have spent about half of it for this year so far, which is on course considering we're halfway through the fiscal year. We will be reviewing the FY25 stuff in a little bit. I would say if we did run into any kind of snag and we needed to get some additional funding, we do have our donations account. I don't necessarily recommend counting on that money, but it is there. So if we did run into a circumstance where we needed to use, you know, a few extra dollars, what we would do is we could pay for Tai Chi out of that.
What's in our expense budget?
Everything right now.
No, I mean, how amount?
We're
Dinero.
just over 10 grand.
Wow, that would pay for a few sessions.
But here's the thing though, the 10 grand, that money that we have set aside is also including the social services budget, because this year the town lumped both together. So you have to take away what social services has. So like in that amount total, it's 10 grand. What COA actually has access to is about 8,500.
Was the whole of it the COAs before the COA and the other branch were combined?
Yes, this is the first. So this, right now COA's budget is 14,875. You guys have spent about half. So you've got about between 7,500 and 8,000 left. And then social services has their side of it.
So what was our budget last year?
The budget for COA went up 2%. So whatever, say it was about $450 less.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so just to be clear, we're not taking money from COA account and putting it towards social services. are
No,
we?
they're separate. So basically what we do is whenever there's expenses coming up from social services, I track it separately. And it's one big account that comes out for both of them, but the money is still separated. I know that, June knows that, Paul knows that.
Okay,
So it's like 1,500 is social services and the rest is
Yes, so
COA?
exactly. So 2,500 of it is social services, the rest is COA.
how much overlap is there between the two functions, since you are both functions?
Well, what I try to do is there is some overlap, generally speaking, about like public benefits, things of that nature. There is overlap in terms of everything else. When I do stuff for social services, I try to focus on non-seniors when at all possible. So, I would say that there's partial overlap.
Okay, anybody have additional questions, observations?
I was just gonna ask, so can we look at if Tai Chi is something that is popular and, you know, we want to continue, look at kind of a cutoff, so we support Jeff for 6 more weeks or something in his personal issues, and then maybe decide on a fill-in, and that will give us that money that was set aside for all of those weeks for
Right.
Jeff, in case the fill-in
Right.
charges us $80 or.
Exactly. That was kind of my thought, Linda, because even if, say, for example, I get a name of a fill-in, they still have to be vetted. I still have to get a W-9 and a certificate of insurance before they can even start with the town, and that process takes time. I
Mhm.
can get a couple of names and I can just even reach out to them and just say, look, here's where we're at. Here's the situation we have going on. I have a Tai Chi instructor who may or may not be able to come back. We're looking for like an as needed or fill-in instructor. Is this something that you would be interested in? And if somebody says that they're interested in, I can push them through and, you know, get them working, get everything I need to get done with June and with Paul so they can get paid. But, you know, if somebody says like, unless I have a guaranteed amount of sessions, no, it's not worth my time, then that's fine. Then at least we know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, if we paying Jeff $50 for a session,
Mhm.
and people also make donations.
Correct.
So it's making more than $50 a session.
No,
Is that
the
correct? Or
donations
does
come to us.
it come to us. Okay.
So the way that it works for donations for yoga and with Tai Chi is that the donations come to us to help supplement the costs.
In lieu of them paying us, in lieu
Right.
of saying it costs you $10 a session or
Correct.
something.
Correct.
How do the other COAs in the area deal with this? Do they charge a set amount, or is it also by donation?
It depends. So some of them do a fixed charge. Some of them, if they do a donation, it's usually for a higher amount. And then, you know, say, for example, you have somebody who has like a true fiscal exemption, they could be waived. And then other towns can use either, like if they have a friends group or if they have something along those lines, they will use that money to help pay for other services.
Interesting to know among the people who now use Tai Chi, if they would be inclined to quit it if there were a fixed fee.
Well, that's something we can talk about.
What's
Because
the typical donation for Tai Chi?
for Tai Chi and yoga, the suggested donation is $2.
Does everyone do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you have people like, oh crap, I forgot my wallet. I'll get you next week. And then they do that.
How many people come to each of these things?
Tai Chi is about 5 to 6 people in person, and then we usually have 2 Zoomers. Yoga has higher attendance in person. They usually have between like 8 to 10, and then 2 Zoomers. 2 to 3 Zoomers.
And where do people find out about
Yeah, we get 2.
this? Where do people find out about the opportunity to do this?
In what way?
I'm Joe Schmo. I just moved to town. I'd like to do yoga, or I'd like to do Tai
Yeah,
Chi.
so Powder
Where do
House
I
is
find the
one,
info?
word of mouth is another.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've actually just had people
you go?
cold call me and just say,
Right.
look, I'm from, you know, I'm brand new in town. I know that you guys have a council on aging. What do you guys offer? And then I usually give them the information that way as well.
But we also put some information in the Powder House News, which comes out every 2 months. It might be worth a splash in the much more frequent, or actually sort of continuous, Berlin Neighbors Connect, so that it's up in people's faces.
Right.
It
I mean,
seems like there ought to be more people than 5 or 6 somehow.
well, I mean, other COA directors are dealing with a similar issue that they tend to just have their regulars and, you know, people will pop in if they need things. I mean, I have gotten more calls from people like needing assistance with public benefits or having certain circumstances that they're questioning and then they're wanting to meet with me, which I'm more than happy to do. But it's very much, I think, on an as needed basis. It's not necessarily consistent.
Do you feel that word is sufficiently out there that anyone in town who might be interested in Tai Chi is availing themselves of that opportunity?
I think at this point, we're kind of at a catch-22, to be honest with you, because I've noticed with certain things, I'll almost kind of like over talk about things, put it all over Facebook, flyers, Powder House, everything. Then day of comes and then still nothing. But then if I post too early, I seem to not get any response. I kind of almost have to figure out what that sweet spot is for them people to have it like be remembered. And then, you know, but like day of notifications are too late. So it's just trying to find that sweet spot. I think one of the bigger issues more so is just like that there's just less frequency. Like I think a lot of people are reading the Powder House and they're enjoying it, but then it gets recycled in 2 weeks and then they forget. And like unless like they have like either like a reminder on their phones or they have some kind of reminder system, which I mean we can discuss that at some point too. That would be the hang up.
We need to put out a Powder House News that's sort of like those birthday candles you can't put out. So they go to throw the thing out and they sit down for breakfast the next morning. There it is on their table. I said, what? I thought I threw this thing out. Yeah, well, whatever we can do to chat it up. I mean, it seems like that's a regular offering of the COA, and
Yeah,
I wish
I would
people
say, you know, the
avail
thing is,
themselves of it.
we are getting people even too from who are not Berlin residents, and I have no objections to that for both classes. I say honestly, the more the merrier. I don't care. You know, what I try to do too is, you know, there's been times too when Jeff and Sharon have reached out to me like, hey, so-and-so would like to be included in the email list. Can you add them? And I'll gladly add them. Like I said, I don't care where they're from. Their classes are for everybody. I think part of it too, you know, like I said, I'm curious to see what the Tai Chiers have to say. I will see if I can get some name recommendations from other COA directors. Just even reach out to them and see if they'd be willing to even do some fill-in slots. And, you know, as Linda's saying, like the fact that we haven't had these classes has actually helped out our budget a little bit, helped us stretch the money a little further, which is good news. So we can kind of take that, you know, and
Well, if we didn't do anything, we'd have a really good budget, but you know, no
That's
service
sad.
would have been provided.
Tai Chi, the last Tai Chi class was right before Christmas. So it's not like, it
okay.
hasn't been that
Okay.
long.
So a few months.
Then the last yoga class was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's not like these classes haven't happened in like, you know, months.
Right, like you said, the weather.
So, and that's part of it too, is
Yeah.
that, you know, when the weather's crappy, we mean, like, I always am out of an abundance of caution. So if the weather's crappy, things get canceled. If it's too cold, it gets canceled. I don't want anybody, you know, risking an injury trying to get here, because to me, that's not worth it.
Nope.
So that's kind of where we're at. Just a general heads up to you guys too about the van. We are still at 3 days a week for the van. One of our drivers has given their notice, but the per diem driver is being bumped up to part-time, so we're still having the 3-day coverage. There's
Good.
no issue there.
And what's necessary to get 5-day coverage?
As you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of money.
What was that?
He said, what's necessary to get 5-day coverage? I said, a lot of money.
Well, we have another driver who's currently still out on workers' comp, so until that gets resolved, there's nothing I can do.
But do we have it in the budget for 5-day coverage?
We are budgeted for 27 hours a week of vans, a van, like, ride, like, between van driver coverage.
Mhm.
27 hours?
Yeah. As of right now, we don't need it. And, we will talk about this further, but I was looking through our logs from the last calendar year, because I'm working on, EOEA's formula grant info. And we only had 16 writers for the entire year. So, like, the 16.
Were they, some of them more than one ride?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, but there were
Oh, yeah.
16 people,
total, that's it.
16 actual riders.
So, like, that's another thing too, is we have to talk about FY 25 budget, guys. It's really not looking good. But just generally speaking, I think what we're gonna have to do is just prioritize where the money needs to go and where you guys want it to go. And I don't know if offering 5-day, 40 hours potentially of rides is really gonna be efficient use of funding, to be honest.
Not at those times.
No. Like I said, we have some people who use the van weekly, and I'm thrilled about that. And then we have some people who do it fill-in. We've had a couple people who only needed it for a short period of time, and that's totally fine. We don't mandate. I mean, we've had people who put in their submissions for forms and they still have a car, and they'll tell us, I don't feel comfortable driving to Worcester, or I don't feel comfortable doing this for this type of appointment. And honestly, we don't care like that we don't restrict that. You know, we've had some people say, I need to, do something, and somebody's gonna come with me, and we're totally fine with that as long as they follow van protocols. We have no
Mhm.
problem with that. And the van drivers have been really accommodating. Peggy's been on top of getting the schedules out, so it's just, like I said, we definitely have ebbs and flows. In terms of peak times versus not.
It's interesting because, I just, not that long ago, got put on the Worcester Regional Transit Authority's advisory board as the Berlin rep. And I'd like to go to them and say, I have mentioned that it would be cool if we had some support for transportation needs in public transportation in Berlin. But actually, I don't really have a sense of whether we do or don't. I guess I need to get on the stick and have a public hearing or gather some info. But what you're saying, it sounds like nobody wants a ride anywhere.
I think what winds up happening is that, I think the vast majority of Berliners have access to a car, whether directly or indirectly. Like I've been working with Northbrook too. We've been having conversations about this, and then there's just some times where, if one resident has a car, they'll take 4 of them grocery shopping.
That's
And
exactly.
it
Yeah.
happens, and it's, so I think as Berliners continue to age, because Berlin's aging, and as the.
I hear that happens.
Exactly.
You're trying to tell me we're getting old?
We're all getting old. We're
All
all
of
getting
us.
old. So as the Berlin population continues to age, I do think that the demand is gonna go up. I don't doubt that.
Mhm.
It's just like I said it right now, if, from the UMass study, they were quoting about 95% of residents having access to a car.
Yeah, but that doesn't deal with, there's a lot of issues about cars that statistics don't tell you. And one is that they may have a car, but they don't drive at night because they go nuts with the headlights.
But that's
Yeah,
what I'm,
the
but that's
van's
what
not
I'm saying,
driving
but
at
that's what I'm
night
saying, the
either.
van doesn't drive at night. I mean, like, we're only, Monday through Friday, business hours, pretty much. I mean, unless we've had the rare event on a weekend for Berlin seniors or something else, and then again, that's driver choice. Like, they have the right to say, I can and cannot drive, because that's not what they're being obligated to do. So.
And is your sense that Clinton, which has 3 vans running, WRTA vans running, that they are also down on ridership?
I think each town does it, every town does it a little bit differently. So usually when towns have multiple vehicles going, one of them is usually doing a shuttle ride to either like the
Mhm.
local grocery store, local
Mhm.
shopping malls, like, and that's their entire route for the day. And then people sign on for that one. And then normally, like, if they have a second or third vehicle, those are the ones doing the medical appointments. But again, depending on where their catchment areas are, they'll say, okay, this vehicle's going in this direction for these days, then this vehicle may be going in the opposite direction. And that's usually how it goes.
Are they running 3 vans every day?
Like I said, some of the bigger towns would be,
Yeah,
but I
not
mean, but it's
Clinton.
not.
Clinton?
Clinton does, I believe, have 3 vehicles. Whether or not all of them drive every day, I honestly like
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to talk to Deb Goodell about that. And again, also too, it's other towns may have different funding sources as well for these things. Like, for example, I know that with other towns as well, if they have non-seniors, they'll take them up, as do we. They'll have, for example, like some towns may say, like if the train station's like right nearby, they may even do a drop off to the train station. Like for example, Marlboro has like Dial a Ride that for like $2 you can get kind of anywhere you need to go. So it really just depends. So like some towns may be able to be, if they have the resources, they may be able to be a little bit more creative and how they serve people and doing transportation, but.
I suppose one thing to consider is what if we offered a regular ride circuit on 1 day or 2 days, and it included a shopping mall and a pharmacy and whatever, and people could count on that, then maybe they would start thinking in terms of utilizing that opportunity.
And so we've trialed that before, and we got maybe 1 to 2 riders, which again, it's not that I'm saying no to it. I think the problem because we're down to 1 van, if 1 day then becomes shuttle, then those medical appointment people are gone.
Yep.
And it's like, and I have to prioritize the medical appointments. And I know people don't necessarily want to hear that. Like, we try to make Thursdays be the shopping day down at Northbrooks, and we tell anybody if they need to go, we'll take them. We sometimes have to be flexible on time, because again, if somebody has a medical appointment, I gotta wait for that to finish before I grab them. It's just, unfortunately, it's the reality of it. And like I said, I would hate to think that somebody had to cancel a medical appointment because we couldn't bring them because the van's now doing a shuttle ride to something else. So we try to, I've tried to be as flexible as I can. And, the drivers have been good about it. And, Peggy's been good about it, trying to figure out how we balance it out. But I think just, we're definitely very lopsided, as in that the times that the van seems to be busiest, everybody wants to go at that point in time. And then we have other days where it's just dead. And it's hard. I mean, we have had days in the past where we've had 6 requests for the same 2-hour block on a day. And we had to tell 4 people no, because we couldn't make the van go in 6 different places. And then we'll have other times where it's like we have a very light week on rides. It's very
It
sporadic.
just seems like if we had that, the 3-day-a-week thing may be part of a downer on transportation, because if you had 5 days a week, you would have the option of making 1 day a no medical appointments just for shopping and just for this and that.
I mean, I will say, even when we had 5-day-a-week coverage, we still weren't driving 5 days a week, because we still only had like requests for 2 to 3 days, generally speaking, even if we had a shuttle day. So we rarely have we had weeks where we have needed like 5 days of solid rides, because between medical appointments, shuttles, and grocery runs, they've needed to go. We don't have that demand.
I think possibly, and I don't want to belabor this any longer, I think possibly the fact that people are tuned into the fact that it runs 3 days a week makes them think, kind of put it in the back of their minds as to what they'd look for transportation. So they don't ask, because they're just assuming they're not going to be able to get a ride.
I mean, that could be a factor, but to be honest with you, Bob, we've had the same riders nonstop. Like, it's the same 16 people. We haven't lost anybody. We haven't gained many, but we haven't lost anybody either. And people have been very flexible, and we've been upfront and honest the whole time. Like, I'm not sugarcoating it to people and saying, oh, we can definitely do this, and then calling them the day of saying, sorry, we can't. Like, they've been warned. Like, we try to tell them, like, look, here's what's going on. We can schedule you for this, heads up. And, like I said, most of the people are just grateful for the rides that they can get, even if it's just only 1 or 2 days a week. Like I said, we've got now consistent 3. It's good. I mean, Mondays and Fridays are busy days, but at the same point too, like, a lot of people have medical appointments on Tuesday through Thursday. So there's not too many people we've had to tell no, to be honest, in terms of that. But like I said, I think at this point, I think for a lot of people, the van is their backup option, which again is totally fine. I'm not saying don't, but I mean, we're not getting, I'm not getting constant calls from everybody saying, oh my God, I need to get a ride tomorrow. Like, can you help me, or things like that. It's a lot of times too, can I please fill this out in case something happens and I can't drive, or, or like in case my kid can't take me type of thing.
Okay, anybody have any other comments on van rides? No.
I know
All
at
right.
Northbrook Village, a lot of the neighbors do for each other.
And
They do. I'm going such and such a place. Anybody else going? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never seems to be an issue.
All right, COA event ideas.
So, as of right now, what we're doing is we're really focusing on my main focus right now has been the digital literacy grant and the classes. We've offered our first round of introduction classes, and we are going to be starting a second round of introduction to digital literacy starting next Wednesday, the 7th. So,
So the first round started?
first round, yep, has started. And then our second round is going to start next week. We found out that through experience that the presentation that our person has come up with, though excellent, is 3 classes worth of material.
Ooh.
So we figured that one out the hard way. So we've been, rejiggering the material a bit so people can learn it, demonstrate it, and then ask their questions and do a review.
Did we have good attendance at the first round?
We had 4 people, but to be honest with you, I'm glad it was only 4 because we were bouncing between all of them the whole time. Just helping them make sure that they understood exactly like what we were asking them to do. There's a lot of fear about if I do this thing, is this thing now going to implode? Is this now going to, cause an issue? So the fact that we were able to have kind of a smaller group was a good thing because like I said, we were really able to give like hands-on, like, it's okay, this is fine. And we were able to show people like, if you don't want to do this, it's okay as well. But in case you need it, it's here. So as a whole, it went really well. They loved the class. They appreciated, we had 4 people who were, I would say, had minimal, if no technological experience. So the fact that like they had a safe environment that they felt like they could ask really any question. And we told them like, there's no such thing as a stupid question. We want them asked. And, if we didn't know anything, we told them. So it was actually kind of a very, I would say a very peaceful kind of environment.
Where did you do it?
Upstairs. We had it upstairs. What we are going to do is we were planning on doing a second introduction to digital literacy class tomorrow at Northbrook. But I was going to be meeting with the residents over at Northbrook too to discuss it further. Their residential council meeting got pushed to the 6th, so I'm going to be going to that meeting and then talking to them about the class that we have scheduled at the end of February over there and trying to get people over there.
Yep.
We are planning, so our instructor is going to be out with the month of March, but I am going to be teaching a class on how to use the technology for Berlin updates. So I'm focusing on the town website, My Town Government, and Zoom specifically. And it's going to be not super advanced, but we are going to be kind of assuming that people have a basic knowledge of technology and can get on the internet, and anything beyond that, I'll teach.
Chat up Tai Chi and the van ride while you're at it.
If only I had the time, Bob.
Yeah. All right, and you just went over easy to say, but not fast. Digital literacy classes, you went over that.
Yep.
Additional Medicare info sessions.
We are having an info session coming up this Monday night, the 5th. It's going to be hosted by Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they're talking about the differences between original Medicare and Medicare Advantage. So for people who are, thinking like, they may not be turning 65 as of yet, and they may not necessarily be eligible for this stuff. It's just good to have this knowledge. So people,
It's on Medicare versus
Medicare Advantage. Yeah.
Medicare Advantage
Yeah.
versus just straight Medicare. right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think, like this is something that, we're just trying to get more info out there to people.
Because it's so confusing.
It is extremely confusing.
Yeah.
As,
Where's it held, or is it virtual?
it's a virtual, it's going to be virtual. So people can just sign up and then they'll be sent a Zoom link.
So there goes my next idea, which was have nice refreshments and more people will come, but you can't pass it through the phone line, right?
Well, we are
On a
offering.
Monday evening in February.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the digital literacy classes, we are offering refreshments. It is definitely helping us with the retention there too. And The instructor and I, we're gonna be trying to do like a weekly meeting. What I think we're gonna be winding up doing is we're gonna be probably extending these classes past the grant period. We can't spend any more money, but I think that this is something that if we can at least be offering classes on a consistent level, I think that we'll continue to get people coming in and.
You in charge for them?
We will figure that part of it out.
Oh, okay.
As of right now, the grant's covering everything. So, and this
Right.
is, and the grant's covering
Right,
everything through
right.
the end of the calendar year. So we still have this even into half of the fiscal year, next fiscal year. So I think what we can do is like I said, we're making some tweaks to the classes because I think we were a little overambitious of what some people can and cannot do.
Mhm.
But we've been getting some good feedback too from people about like what they want to learn about. And we had some general class ideas that we had, but taking into consideration their feedback may help us get together another couple classes.
How many are signed up for the next round?
We've got 3, I think, so
Okay.
far. So
And are these people from Northbrook 1 or 2 or in town
Smattering.
generally?
smattering, it's open to anybody. So anybody can sign up for any class. So what I did was I talked with the managers over at Northbrook 2. They said that even if a resident couldn't come to the town meeting classes, but wanted to go to the Northbrook classes, as long as they had just like some basic info, like name and a phone number, they were fine with that. As long as they had a rough idea of who was coming in, because Northbrook 2, as you guys all know, is locked. So,
Yeah.
but beyond that, like as long as I knew who was coming, they didn't care. They were fine with it.
Alrighty. The Powder House News.
Any other events before we go to Powder House?
That is what I have for so far.
You can move on.
So, just to give you guys a heads up, we had another round of mailing issues this round, with the post office. There's now a couple of portals that I have to enter in all the addresses for when.
Oh,
we
yeah,
do
it's-
the mailing.
It's not paper anymore.
No, it's a giant pain in the derriere,
What do you need to
unfortunately.
do?
So there is now a portal through USPS that I now have to upload all of the addresses that we want to do and create labels, hence. And I have to create labels to give to the post office. And then the trays that that Clinton Offset is using to bundle everything together, it now also needs to have labels on them. It's a nightmare.
Can I ask
So
a
the
question? I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, after you.
I just was gonna ask, is there a way for us to offer an email address for people to say, I would prefer to get my Powder House News digitally? I
Yes.
noticed, because I still get mine in the mail. There's no reason I need one in the mail, but it offers a phone number to call. And, you know, often I'm reading this at 10 o'clock at night, so I forget about it after that. But if I could just email something and say, please change mine to email, hopefully that we would get a greater response and cut down on the mailing.
We've done this in the past, Linda. So yes, anybody can call anytime and let me know they just want a digital copy of it and they'll get it. They'll get notified when it gets posted on the town website. We've only had a handful of people ask for that though.
But if it wasn't a phone number, I'm saying, if I could just, whenever I feel like an email box and gives you a list of who
Yeah.
to switch to digital.
I can totally, what I can do is on the town website, and I'll put a blurb in the next Powder House and just saying like, listen, like email me directly. And I can even put something on the town website, just saying for like digital, digitalization for Powder House, and then it will come right to me. And then I can just add those people and that's fine. Hi, Chris.
Hi. Can you send me my Powder House News by email?
Sure.
And me, that would be great.
There you go. There's 2 people.
And me, I mean, they're mailing me one.
Yeah.
Mine can be emailed.
Well, that gives us enough extra money in that account that we can put out another 2 pages in each issue.
There you go.
And you're gonna write them.
Uh-oh. I rescind that thought.
So what I'm gonna have to do is James has sent me a preliminary list of new households for senior households for Berlin. It looks like there've been about 40 new households.
Mhm.
So
do you need help getting this into the portal? Like,
it's not that, it's just, it's not hard, it's just time consuming. Because I was running around, having not known this issue before I dropped the stuff off at the post office, I wound up spending a day and a half now running around trying to get the stuff so we could get it out, because unfortunately, the last time we had a powder house go out, we were up against the time deadline
Right.
because the postage rates went up come January 1st. So that was my concern, was just if we didn't get the info out on time.
Mm.
But they went out next day so I was shocked. But yeah, it's not so much that it's hard to do, it's just time consuming because it's a lot of info you've got to upload, you've got to double check everything, and then I've now got to pick a date for the postage to go through. That is so many days out, and then I have to time it with Clinton Offset so we can deliver everything at the same time. So it's been interesting. I'm hoping that what I can do for the next session is I'm gonna talk with them next week. Hopefully try to get the portal information uploaded and see if I can send that to them so they can print it directly on the powder houses. So I hopefully don't have to run around trying to print labels for 4 hours. I'm hoping not. So, yeah.
So the labels have to get put on the Powder House Newses as opposed to Clinton Offset doing it, which we thought was eureka. What a great idea.
Well, so what happened is that with each of these, through the USPS portal, what they want you to do is that each individual powder house now has its own barcode that is individualized to the house, which is why this is now a giant pain in the derriere. Because you can't.
Something that like a volunteer could help you populate.
It's not, like I said, it's not hard to get everything into the portal. It's just time consuming, because when I had to print out the labels last
Then
time,
someone could just do it,
Right.
so you don't have
I
to.
know, I
Yeah.
just think your time could be better used doing something else when maybe there's like
I'm
a teenager out there that needs to,
Volunteer.
I don't know, get hours for the honor society or whatever.
what I can try to do is this, we can see, now that I have the updated info from James, I can see, how many households can I take off the list because they're getting, the digital versions of it. And I can see if I can print out the list ahead of time and send it to Clinton Offset and say, can you guys print this on these individual powder houses? And it may save us some time that way. If they can't do it, then yeah, going forward, we'll have to figure that out.
So to be clear, Clinton Offset does not put on the label that they require.
What they do is that right now they've gotten a list of the households and they've been printing that directly onto the powder house. But like I
Yeah.
said, unfortunately, after finding this out with the last one, there's now a barcode that's gonna go with it. So they didn't know
Huh.
that. I didn't know that. They had already finished printing everything. None of us knew until we got to the counter at the post office that this is what was going on. Hence the problem. So I'm hoping if I can maybe try to get this information ahead of time, I can try to send that info to Clinton Offset and see if they can directly print that on there. But if they can't, and then if it's the labels again, then I'm just gonna have to give them labels and see if they can feed it through their machines as they print it.
Wow.
Yep.
Or we could go back to sticking them on, but that was. Yeah. Wow, what an exciting time. Is this the same goofball head of the Postal Service who's been a pain in our neck since the last election?
I believe we've had a new postmaster since that time, but
I don't mean in Berlin, I mean nationally.
oh, that I don't know. Yeah.
The guy's name is DeJoy. In case anybody wants to write hate mail, you can send it to the, get rid of this chooch.
Nothing else to do.
He was the guy who's trying to cut back the number of mailboxes and yeah, anyway, we could go on and on. And how about content? I have an appointment on next Tuesday to talk with Edie and Fred Brewer about their lives in town and some info about the Brewer properties, which were more extensive by far than they are now. So that's just one thing, but there's lots of other space in that publication.
Do we have anyone for the employees?
I was actually wondering, Linda, if you wanted to, would you like to do a little blurb? because Linda got appointed in between the last couple of powder houses. I figured we could highlight Linda considering she's our newest council member.
Sure,
Just
and we've
a
done that.
blurb on my background, is that what you
Yeah,
want?
just a quick bio of like, like a picture of you, of your choosing, and then whatever you would like the residents to know about you. It's truly your call.
Because we did that, we've done that in the past, and Powder House News has introduced all the members of the Council on Aging.
Yes, we've all done
Mhm.
When do you need this by?
Get it to me by the 12th.
Okay.
We have one new employee. She's an assessor assistant. I can ask her if she wants to do it. If not, I would think that she would do it the next round, but I will ask her.
Sounds good.
And I will be asking Sergeant Gilchrist for an update on Officer Jax, our four-legged friend.
Yeah. Okay,
it.
January, February issue out for mailing.
Yep.
What's,
Like, I just want to kind of explain, like, it was out for mailing and the little bit of the holdup, because it
oh, yeah,
was a little bit of a
Because-
close call.
yeah. USPS issues. Any ideas for additional topics for the Powder House News for the March, April edition? Feel free to communicate when, if something pops into your head. Of course, you have to review the last 2 years worth of Powder House Newses to make sure we're not repeating anything, but
Yeah, I mean, what we could do too is, I'm sure I can try to get an updated list from Kristen and Dee about any, board members or any boards, committees that have any open positions, especially because this will be the last one before, town meeting. And, yeah,
are there any issues, Chris, that the town needs to get advertised that could, something appearing in the Powder House News would be helpful with? And it would have to be in the March, April edition because the town meeting's in May.
oh, Chris, you muted.
I thought I unmuted myself, but I guess not.
Now you have.
So there will probably be another coffee talk sometime in April. You could probably get the date from Kristen.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about things that are on the town meeting warrant.
Right.
That would, I mean, at least the date and time of
Yeah,
the
can do that.
coffee talk.
Coffee talk we could put in the calendar.
Yep.
Mhm.
And we can do a little blurb too, and just, for anybody, because we have a lot of newer residents who may not have participated in a coffee talk, like, what is it? And that you actually don't need to be caffeinated to come, so it's fine.
Especially.
No, I bought a box of Joe that was decaf last time.
Oh,
look at
good.
you.
Oh.
Nobody knew either.
Oh,
Well, now they know.
So then fell asleep.
Your secret's out.
So when they say, I don't like decaf, then, they don't know. And they seem to like it.
perfect.
You need help with it? What are you doing? What are you doing? Just to look.
The,
Oh.
I think I just lost my thought. Oh, well. Fiscal year 25 budget.
So we're gonna review the budget, for what we have. I am gonna be meeting with FinCom tomorrow night. We've gotta make some decisions, guys. So let me show you the budget. Hold on just a second. Let me open it up. Closed on, I think the page just fell asleep on me. Hold on just a second. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen and just let me know if you guys can see it. And Kate, I can attach this so you can see it, Kate, okay?
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so as of right now, we are scheduled to have 14,851 for expenses for next year for the COA. It's level funding as of this moment.
Actually,
And
can you just send that to me too?
yeah, well, I'm gonna post it with the meeting minutes and stuff like that.
Okay, so then.
So this is the number that we're working with for next year as of right now, and it's the number, until this changes, it's what I'm going with. I'm looking at the projected costs for everything for next year. MCOA dues, I budget about $300. It usually is slightly less, but they usually go up every year. And this is for the Massachusetts Council on Aging. It's the
Right.
dues that they make every town pay. Meals on Wheels driver reimbursement, we do have a driver who gets reimbursed monthly. I'm budgeting $400 for it. Right now, we're at 67 cents per mile driven. Usually what winds up happening is at the beginning of the calendar year, the price goes up. So I'm not quite sure what it would be, but for right now, I'm just budgeting what we have for $400. The yoga sale classes, Sharon has confirmed she's not raising her prices. So the two classes combined cost us $75 per class. So this is how much it is for 52 classes. Jeff for Tai Chi has said that he's going up to $60 a class for 52 weeks is the $31.20. Meals on Wheels donation is for mock, making opportunity count. They usually ask us for between $400 and $500. I am budgeting for $500. They may ask for more. I don't know. We will kind of have to see what they ask. I believe last year they asked $400 and we gave $500. And then $4,000 here is for gas for the van. I'm approximating that $4,000 is approximately 1,142 gallons of gas. The van right now is averaging 17 miles per gallon. That's just, and I looked up the fuel mileage online and that's roughly what to expect. So that gives us a remaining budget of $2,631. The problem is that we have not budgeted for the powder house, grab and goes, or anything else. So if Kristen and I are going to be pushing FinCom and really trying to push for the powder house to become a town paper, I think it needs to be. I think we have a lot of people who have expressed that they want more frequent updates and who want to get more of a picture of what's going on with the town. And if the town takes over the powder house, that is a weight off of us. But if that does not go through, we don't have enough money to cover it. We don't. 6 issues of Clinton offset for 800 issues is $735 per mailing. 6 times is almost $4,400. And then postage, I'm budgeting $2,200, but postage rates go up every 6 months and I don't know how much they're gonna be going up.
What if we ask for a donation for anybody
So,
who doesn't want to go over to online?
This is the thing. I know that this council has been doing its best to make things donation based as possible and to try to, make sure we include as many people as we can. And I respect that and I want to honor it. But I think the council is going to have to make some decisions. I can go to FinCom tomorrow and I can try to ask for more money. I guarantee you the first question they're going to ask me is, what is the council willing to do to bridge the gap? We are, as of right now, we will be getting formula grant for this calendar year. The state has also notified us that we are getting a one-time payout of just shy of $1,100 because they got adjusted senior numbers for population. They're giving us a one-time payout. It has not come in yet. I will let you know when it does. I don't know if you are all aware, Governor Healy has just cut $1 billion out of the state budget for social services for FY24. And we do not know what is going to happen for FY25. We may or may not get formula grant funding. And right now, I'm not saying it's in jeopardy, but I can't bank on money we don't get to cover us. And I also don't want to recommend a negative budget to FinCom. So some suggestions that we can discuss is, as Karen has stated, do we want to raise the suggested donations for Tai Chi and yoga from $2 to like $4 or $5?
Can we talk about, this is maybe very controversial as the new person, so don't throw things at me, but can we just say Tai Chi costs $3?
Yeah.
Or, does it always have to be put out in the form of a donation,
Right. And that's, like I said, I know in the past, Linda, this group has been leery about having fixed costs for things. But if and again, like, I know that the COA, we're not here to make money, and I get that. But I think the problem is that we've had minimal, like between at most 2 to 2.5% budget increases over the last few years, but expenses have exponentially gone up.
Right. And
Gas
they're
is a
going to
wild
go up.
card, postage is a wild card. You know, we've had a lot of things that have gone up, and again, the shortfall is now catching up with us. I mean, our Tai Chi instructor hasn't raised prices in the 4 years I've been here. And we were the lowest paying town he had. So totally justified, you know. So like I said, do we want to look at having fixed costs for Tai Chi yoga? Do we want to start? We have maybe 2 or 3 van riders who will give a donation. But, you know, for some of the longer rides, do we start looking at charging for a ride that's going to be more than 10, 15 miles combined mileage? And especially for the Powder House, I think if we retain possession of it, if the town does not take it up as a town paper, I think you guys have to really consider, should we be printing out the amount of issues we are, and should we be mailing them?
I was going to suggest if that were the case, do we go to an all digital paper?
Or charge for those who want the mailing.
Exactly.
Because I think the
I
thing
think
is,
that,
yeah.
I don't want to
yeah.
interrupt you, but I really think that would push more people to do
Right.
the online.
And that's what a lot of towns do, is that, they'll say, if you want to receive a mailed copy of the Powder House or the mailing, it's going to be this, we're asking for this charge.
Right.
The other thing too, that you guys can consider, that a lot of towns do, is creating a friends group to help fundraise and get some extra revenue in. About 1/3 of the towns in Massachusetts have a friends group. I talked to Lisa Dion about 2 weeks ago from Bolton. She raved about her friends group.
Yep.
I know in Bedford there's a friends group because I used to live there, and they were very supportive. Who pays the driver of the van?
So we have a part-time wages account. So there's basically wages for me, then we have a part-time wages account, and then we have expense account, and that's it.
And that's not in the budget here?
No, because there's separate line items that are already budgeted for. So
Okay.
those ones I'm not as worried about as of right now. The employee wages, we've been told, can go up a 2% COLA. So we're budgeting for that. But as of right now, all expenses are just flat budgets.
And what happens if the van needs maintenance?
Well, that is another thing. As of right now, what wound up happening last year was that we did have some elder grant leftover money that did help pay for a service that we had in June. Because if not, we would have gone over on our expense budget. But I'm only trying to use the donation account really only as needed, because it is the only safety net we have.
Right. Well, and I think we have to build something in. For example, if we say, you need to pay if you go more than 10 miles on the van, something, or you need to pay $4 for Tai Chi, and someone really has a hardship.
Right.
I think we want to build something in to accommodate the hardship people.
Absolutely.
And that could come from a fund like that or something.
And that's why, like I said, I mean, I'm not sitting here and, if we have somebody tell us that they really can't do something, then that's fine. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to, come out here to, take everybody's money. I just, like I said, the COA has always had very lofty ambitions, and I'm proud of that. But just the math is no longer mathing, and that's just the long.
That'd be reality. Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, we usually do a few grab and go meals each year. They're $1,200 to $1,300 a whack. If we wanted to do some more virtual tours, that's $200 a whack. So it's there's certain additional things that we can be doing with the money that we have, but it's, again, if we're down to $2,600 and the Powder House becomes a town entity, I'm not that worried about it. But if it's still on the COA, as of right now, I'm projecting that we're going to get about $950 worth of donations over the 6 issues, which again is still something, but it's not going to solve the problem.
And we don't want, this is only my opinion, but I don't think we can build a budget on donations.
No, you can't. And that's the thing, is that, like I said, I cannot recommend to FinCom or to Kristen, Select Board, anybody, a negative budget. Cause they're gonna look at me like I have 12 heads. So, you know, and they're gonna ask me like, what gets cut? And it's not my place to tell you what I think should and shouldn't necessarily be cut. I'm with you guys and that I want to do as much as I can. I would say that like the powder house probably is the thing that makes me the most nervous, to be honest with you, for the simple fact that postage goes up every 6 months. We keep getting more and more seniors in. It's not going to be attainable for much longer for us to really be sending out an individualized mailing to each senior household. It's just not.
No, I think you make the case that we just need to really make the push to get more people accessing it online and
So why don't you write
maybe
something
bump up
for,
the donation price of things and
And, you know,
make those hard decisions if we
yeah.
this year?
And I think the thing is too, is that with digital literacy, I'm hoping that like the people who have like, are very fearful about using technology, once they kind of get more familiarized with it, I'm thinking then as more people get familiar, they'll start using more of the online services that the town has. Like I said, I think, you know, the vast majority of the people who use the powder house, I suspect that they are, you know, looking at it for like a week or so and then it's in the recycle bin. And like I said, I'm not sitting here saying that we shouldn't have a publication. Obviously we should, but you know, are there different ways to do it? You know, should we then just do like a bulk 500 hard copy print and then we just distribute them out to various places in town and then that's it?
Yeah.
And then we
I
save them.
think that's reasonable because worst case scenario, somebody doesn't get it to their house. They don't want to read it online, but they ride in the van and maybe we pop by an establishment that has it.
Right. So, like I said, it's not something that, as of right now, I think for the rest of the year, as of right now, we should be okay. But like I said, knowing that things are going to continue to go up in price, and again, I'm going on the budget numbers that I've been told to go on. This is our reality for next year.
I guess one concern I have about making the Powder House News something you pick up out of a pile at 3 or 4 places in town is that when we've already discussed where do people find out about things that COA does, where do people find out about Tai Chi and yoga, where do people find out about ride availability? I'm assuming that most seniors find out about it by reading the Powder House News and seeing it there.
I think you're right. I do think people get that info, but again, too, something's got to give.
Well,
So-
if we can't gather email addresses for everyone, can we make it an attachment on the, you know, make it available on the town website?
It is
Yeah.
available on the town website. Usually what I do, Linda, is I just give them the direct link for it so that they can just access it directly.
Could we put the direct link right into the Powder House News?
So no,
it-
only because I can give you the link from like the town of Berlin where like the Powder House News tab is, but each individual Powder House I can't because that link changes. So when I upload it, it kind of uploads as a download and then it gets its own unique URL. So there's no 2 powder houses with the exact same. I can give you the I can and I will put the email the URL link to the Powder House tab though for
Okay.
the town, but like each individual powder house, I can't do it.
Okay,
But if it's uploaded to the tab, then wouldn't the link to the tab just bring you to the new one each time?
The way that it works is the tab, I can even just show you the tab. What they do is that I write out like what issues there and then people can just click it and then it just downloads onto their.
Victoria,
Yeah,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is Kate. I'm at my appointment that started at 5.
okay,
and I don't know if you need me to vote. I think we have enough people, but
yeah.
I
it's
have
okay.
to duck
If
off.
you need to go, no worries. No worries, Kate.
Okay, sorry all. Have a
It's
good
okay.
night.
That's okay.
Thank you, Kate.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kate.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Hi.
So let me show you guys how this works. I'm just going to stop share for just a second and I'm going to log on and show you guys how it looks. So. And then, let's see. All right. All right, I'm sharing again. Hold on just a sec. All right. So see here, it says right here, you know, we let everybody know. So then we have like each edition. So if like, I always post, this is the first thing I do whenever I get the final copy from Lori, is it immediately gets posted here. So like this particular website link, I can start putting in the Powder House. That's totally fine. And then, like I said, people can access, they're all digital copies, and this goes back to the 80s, to the oldest of Powder House newses. So, but like I said, like each individual Powder House has its own separate URL. So
But
that,
this is fine.
but this, like I said, this, usually when people get to this page, they're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's post that and maybe suggest bookmarking it.
Yeah. And then putting that on like the Facebook Friends of Berlin page and all of that, you know. I personally don't ever go to the Town of Berlin page unless I'm looking up something specifically, but I certainly could do it to look this up, you know. So
So yeah, so like I said, I'm perfectly fine with doing that. And then, like I said, as, you know, I usually, when I can, I will put a blurb out on, Facebook, just saying, hey, the newest Powder House is up. Again, and then usually if something goes up in the COA or social services, I know, Dee does her best to get it on the Town of Berlin Facebook page, so it gets up that way as well.
How close is the town to buying into the idea of having a town-wide paper?
Well, that is to be determined. I know that Kristen has brought it up to the select board,
Mhm.
and Chris can talk about that. Kristen is for it. I think, especially getting the UMass poll back, that one of the massive concerns that people had was that they felt like they didn't know what was going on and they felt very disconnected. And the thought of it being too, that if we could have a paper that's maybe smaller, that goes out a bit more frequently, that people could, you know, get all of the board committee department updates, seems to be bridging that gap.
And then who becomes responsible for the Powder House News in that
It's
case?
so basically what would happen is that if Powder House becomes a town paper, the purview then falls under Kristen to decide, you know, who's gonna help with the layout. It then becomes on to all the boards, committees, departments to supply the content. And then, you know, she would either appoint like a work-off person or somebody else to help with the layout till it gets out.
fingers
So
crossed.
we would, it wouldn't be the Council on Aging publication anymore. It would be the town publication, and we would be one of
Contributing
several contributors.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, we're already getting contributions from all the other town departments and boards and committees anyway.
Mhm.
So, you know, at this point, it's like everybody else is getting it as a free benefit that the COA is paying for. You know what I mean? So if it does shift to a town paper, it's like then the fault comes off of COA, especially financially. And then, like I said, we can still contribute to stuff. It's still, you know, I suspect like Kristen would come up with the system of how that would go. Again, this is all, you know, pending town vote in May, so we've got a ways to go. And like I
So
said,
there's an
yeah,
article on the warrant about creating a town newspaper.
I don't know how exactly she's doing this. I don't know if she's looking at the supplemental budget. It sounds like at this point she's looking at it as a supplemental budget request, which they go through, I believe, as a warrant for town meeting.
I feel like it's very important. The Powder House News is a very important part of Berlin. It may not have, a ton of information, but it has some. And if the town isn't willing to fund it as a town newspaper of some kind or newsletter, I think that the council should still ask for additional money to put out the Powder House News. That would just be my suggestion. If they're not willing to put it in as a line item in the budget as a town responsibility, then I think if council still wants to have a newspaper, they should request additional money to do the Powder House News.
Because at least a third of the town population gets it that way.
Right. And I do think that if you put some kind of blurb in the Powder House News to say it'll no longer be a paper newsletter, If you'd like to get the newsletter, you'll have to get it digitally. Please give us your email address and we'll let you know when it's ready.
Hmm.
Something like that.
And
That's
I mean,
my suggestion.
and we can even, if the blurb doesn't go out for this next issue, it can go out for the May, June issue.
Mhm.
Because by that point, like Kristen may have a better idea of where the budget's gonna be. So, I mean, like I said, as of right now, I've put in the request, her and I are gonna fight for it. I just, like I said, at this point, because it is just a supplemental request, I have to assume at this point it's gonna get denied, and then what are we gonna do about it?
So that's why I would say ask for additional
Yeah.
money in case you just want to put out one like 4 times a year or something even.
And that's something else to think about too, like, I mean, do you want to go down, like, do we do a smaller paper? Do we do it less times a year? I mean, there's different ways that we could go about it. Do we do black and white instead of color? That would save money, like, there's certain ways to do it. I know that at Northbrook too, they were telling me just give us the copies and we'll hand them out to all the residents that way to save the postage, but I mean, yes, it saves us $30, which is great, but it's not gonna solve the problem.
How many go out now?
So right now, we are mailing out just shy of 750 mailing, because we're requesting 800 papers. But now that we've got a new census that's showing me 790 families, now the 800 we have is barely gonna cover that. And we're not gonna have much extras, so,
Is that Highland Ridge, Victoria?
yeah, I think Highland Ridge was one of the big ones.
Okay. I
Yeah.
bet I might be able to connect you with somebody up at Highland Ridge who's been involved in the town, Judy Booman.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I know.
If you have her email, I bet she could probably put something out to them to say, send your email to Victoria so that you don't have to mail things to them.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm perfectly willing to do that with all of, like, especially also to like the Eco Village or Meadowbrook Village as well, and just say if you guys want to receive a digital copy, or then do we just do like extra mailings and then just like leave 20 in their common room, so like if they wanted to peruse and look at it, we're not mailing out 50, we're only dropping off like 20.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we can figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if our first choice should be it's a town paper, but I think otherwise we get creative.
And I can do a blurb. I will do a blurb. I'll try to do it for this paper and just explain, like, look, here's what we're looking to do for the Powder House going forward. If this remains a town paper at that point, it's going to change the formatting, but if it stays with the COA, here's what we need to do.
Right.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And we had broached the subject, not Powder House News, but Tai Chi and yoga, whether or not we have a requested charge. And I don't have great heartburn with that. I mean, there are people who are now participating, indicating that they'll have to quit if they have to pay $5 or $6 or $7 or $8 a session.
I have not had anybody come up to me and saying that there's a financial concern. Like I was telling Karen before, sometimes like people may like accidentally forget their wallets and then they'll say, oh, I'll come back next week and pay you double. Like that's fine. We've even had some people who will attend the classes digitally, and then like once a quarter, they'll send me a check just saying, thank you for having the classes at least digitally so I can see it.
Yeah.
We can, like I said, I think like if the suggested donation went from like $2 to like $4 or $5, I don't think it's gonna break the bank for the people who come.
Mhm.
It may dissuade some new people from coming, but at the same point too, like I can't plan on that either. Like, and again, if we can always take it on a case by case basis. Like I'm not expecting residents of Northbrook to be forking over the same amount of money as I would from somebody who's not there.
You could do a range like $3 to $5 or something.
Yeah. And, like I said, I mean, there's certain things that, I don't want people fretting that, like, at this point, we've been trying to tell people like, look, don't worry about the money. Like, we're not going to leave people high and dry. And I still don't want to necessarily do that, but I think we've just got to try to find a way to help bridge the gap a little bit. So the COA, like, so I'm not like sitting here come like May, like going into my gazentas, like having a meeting with June being like, okay, what money can I transfer? So we're going to be fine. Cause I've had to do that. I had to do that last year. I suspect we're gonna have to do it again this year. And it's just the reality. Unfortunately, like I said, costs have just gone up.
Postage has gone up.
It just, everything has. And unfortunately, like I get a plan for things to be on the higher end of it. I mean, I could get lucky and then it's on the lower end and that's wonderful, but I have to plan for things being more expensive than what they may or may not actually be, just so I know that we have that funding.
Yeah.
Okay, are we in need of taking any kind of a vote today on one course of action or another, or
No,
charging
I want you
fees,
guys
or-
to think about it. We can discuss it again next meeting as to like what you guys would suggest to do for the FY25 budget to close the gap. Like I said, I'm meeting with FinCom. I'll have their feedback and we can go from there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tell
Yeah,
them what you need.
right. And I hope she doesn't get a recording when she asks, puts that input in. I'm sorry, the budget is capped this year.
No, they're pretty.
Oh, I've never had a bad, FinCom has been very, like, very easy to work with, at least for me. I've never had a problem with them.
Yeah, they're good people.
Any other business anyone wants to bring up?
The only other thing I have to bring up is just like a mini correspondence. Lucy Ayers came to see me about 3 weeks ago. And she was saying that I believe on April 6th that they're going to be doing like a town-wide kind of like historical celebration-ish of the town. And they wanted to know if the COA wanted to do anything to contribute.
What is it? Townwide historic?
I think like it's a
Historic
historic,
Society.
yeah, they're like the Historic Society's doing kind of like a, I think they're doing, I'm blanking on the exact terminology she used, but she wanted to know like if the COA either wanted to participate, if we wanted to have like
Oh.
refreshments or anything like that there. So I said, I'm meeting with you guys today and I would bring it up. So we don't have to act on anything now, but just to put it on your radars.
And we would contribute some information about what we do or what has been done, or
What
how
the
it-
COA does, and or like, do you guys like want to do like some refreshments for that? Like do some refreshments to, you know, I was talking to her about like our, you know, like our, history makers of Berlin and stuff like that too. Like, you know, we could have like a mini gathering of that too, so people can see, you know, how we are honoring our Berliners.
We had Peg asked the question at our meeting last night about how does the COA get information out about what they do. And so that would be an opportunity that at this historical thing to at least have something on a piece of paper that says,
Yeah.
these are the things we've done in the past, you know, or that kind of thing.
What was the date for this?
I believe it's April 6th. It's a Saturday.
And are they looking for like groups to have tables, or how is it set up?
As of right now, I think that they're still like in the like
Development
stages of
stage?
it. Yeah, the development stages. If this is something that you guys are interested in, I can certainly reach back out to Lucy and just get some more information and just say that the COA is interested. We're just trying to figure out what niche would be the way to go.
Yeah, you probably should do
and
that.
what's the event called?
Oh crap. I'm sorry, Bob. I'm like having a total like mental fart. I'm blanking on like I know it's a historical event on April 6th. I'm just blanking on like what she called it. I'm sorry.
Remembrance?
Something like that, I think.
Is there anything posted about it or no?
I don't know if anything would be posted because it's so early.
Okay,
Usually, like I think it's about a month out that they tend to post stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
So the idea is that they highlight different groups in town and what they've contributed to the,
I think, yeah, and like a lot of like the history of Berlin too. So, you know, how does, you know, how I think the various committees that want to be involved in it, what are they doing to help with the like history, like accumulation, and like what are they doing now to serve Berlin?
all right, anybody have any other input, questions, money to donate? No. Very well. Our next meeting will be held the last Tuesday of February, which would be the 27th at 4 p.m. Same time, same station. And I would at this point entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I hear a second.
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor are Karen Schultz,
Aye.
Lori Fairbay,
Aye.
Linda Robinson,
Aye.
Pat Wheeler,
Yeah, I,
Bob Blair, aye.